Hey guys, welcome back to Nature's Cadence Farm. Today we're going to be working on our oven, our stove, our range, if you will. This is a Kenmore, and I'll get the model number and put it down in the description there, so make sure you check that out in case you have one that's very similar to this. But what the problem is right now is well, I'll give you a little background, a little history. So Mrs. Cadence was actually in here cooking something in the oven part, and when she got done, everything cooked fine. It was okay. She hit the cancel button, the off cancel button here, and the oven was supposed to turn off, and then she was going to get um, she got her food out and she sat down to eat it, to enjoy it. And so she was sitting there and she heard the oven start beeping. This display module here, this circuit board that's back behind here, started beeping and flashing an F1. That's Foxtrot 1. And she's like, wow, something's wrong, why is it beeping? So she looks around a little bit, and she opens up the door, and she notices that it is really hot. I mean, she said it is just rolling, and the element is glowing red. It's still on. That's kind of the first thing she noticed when she walked up to it, because she could see it through the glass in the front. And she did the right thing. She said, "I need to turn the power off to the range." So she ran into the circuit breaker box, which we have labeled up, and so she turned the power off, and that was it. And talking to her later, I was like, um, how did all that work out? And what we can do, we can actually label our breaker a little bit better, because in the moment she was looking for a breaker named Oven or something like that, where in actuality the breaker schedule is actually labeled Range. So we might go back in that breaker box there and actually put a label on there that says Oven, maybe on the breaker itself. So maybe in a time that there's panic, that it's a little bit more obvious which one goes where. So I think I'm going to do that for her. But she turned it off, and she knew if she could not figure out which breaker it was, she could just turn the whole house off, throw the main breaker for the house, and that would kill it for sure. So she did a really good job. Good job, Mrs. Cadence, on that. So she was on top of it. But what brings us to the problem, and that is when the control board is turned off, the actual oven itself is still on. It's still providing power to the element down in the bottom there for the oven element. So she turned it off, and everything was fine. I got home later on that day, or the next day, or whatever it was, and I got in the house and I was able to kind of look at it. I turned the power on to the oven. I said, well, maybe something happened, or it was weird. And anyway, so turned it on, and literally by the time I walked from the other room into here, I opened up the oven, stuck my hand in there, and I could instantly feel heat. So I knew, I was like, oh yeah, it's definitely off. So what I did was, so we could use our cooktop still, and that was kind of an issue because this clock was turned off, and um, the oven didn't work, and the cooktop didn't work. So thankfully, we had a friend of ours give us an induction cooktop, a little individual single burner induction cooktop. So we used that for a couple of days to try to get things going. And so eventually I ended up going in there, and I'll show you kind of what I did in the oven. So let me get you in here, and I'll show you what I'm doing and what it's doing right now, and we'll talk about that. You can see here I've got the heating element removed now, where before what I had done was just pulled the heating element out and removed it completely. Then I just taped these two lines up here, so I didn't have to pull the whole oven, the range out of the hole it was in. I just unwired the heating element, taped off the connections, closed the door, and we could still use the cooktop up there. But you can see the status of the display here, which I'll get you up here so you can see that. This the status of the display is off. Everything should be off right now. And you can still see down here we've actually got 245.2 volts on the multimeter there in volts AC. So I just got these alligator clips on these leads right here, and I've got the red wire. It doesn't matter really polarity wise, but I've got the one lead in the V, and then one lead in the common here. So the V ohms and diode checker. And so if you need some of these leads, I highly suggest getting some alligator clips like this, because man, it makes it nice doing this kind of testing. I'll put some links down below, so be sure to check those out for these leads and this multimeter too. It's been a really good multimeter. I've had this for probably 20 years now, somewhere around in there. So almost 20. Either way, really good piece of equipment. I would highly suggest getting a nice meter if you're going to be doing any of this kind of testing. So what that brings us to is going and pulling out the range away from the wall and out of the hole it's in. We're going to get into that control board that's behind here, but from now on we're going to have the power turned off. So be sure to maybe kill your breaker if it's hardwired, or unplug it, kill your breaker and unplug it like I'm going to do, so we can pull this oven out and get the control board apart that's behind that display we showed you up there. Went ahead and turned off the breaker, and you can see the voltage now is gone from the circuit there, and you can also see the light is turned off too. So we're safe to go ahead and unplug this and remove everything now. So let's go ahead and get started with that. We can take these alligator clips off, and you just squeeze them like this, and this part opens up like that. These are really nice again for that kind of stuff. So let's go ahead and get these out of there. Get our multimeter out, and then we'll start sliding this thing out of the hole. Just want to cover something real quick. If you are unplugging it while the power is on, be careful, because I had somebody tell me one time they wrapped their fingers around this plug like this. When they pulled it out a little bit, they couldn't get it all the way out of the plug, and they actually shocked themselves across these two leads. You can see this one's longer than the other two, so that means that's your ground, and then these two are your hot. So just be careful pulling these things out if you still got the power on. That's why I like to go ahead and turn the power off and then unplug it, just in case something weird happens. On the back of the range here, we've got these screws here. These are 1/4 inch head, or it looks like a little number 1 square drive, but the 1/4 inch really fits in there well. And when you pull them all the way out, you can just throw them on the floor like I do, and then attempt to find them later. Or if you want to be smart about it, there's one here in the middle. You can kind of catch them before they fall, but they're not very long. That's what they look like. So after we get this middle one out, we've got 2 more over here. One in this bottom corner, and one up here, just like the other side. Yeah, there we go. So then you can take and pull. Oh, got one here in the middle too. I just thought these were held in with little clippies, but there's one up here. Like anything, if it's giving you a little resistance, maybe don't force it, and inspect it and investigate it first. So here's our circuit board here that has all these relays in, on it, and I believe one of these relays are stuck, closed. So it looks like we've got a black line 1 here, a broil blue, and then a bake yellow wire. It says it right here, bake. And so I'm thinking that this bake wire here, this relay here, is stuck, possibly. So what we're going to do is pull this wire off, and what I'm going to do is check this terminal here to see if we have continuity from line 1 to bake, and we're also going to check from line 1 to broil too. In fact, we're just going to unplug that. Now remember, blue goes to broil, or it'll be backwards, but there we go. So let's check that out real quick. Let's just see if my theory is correct. I wanted to show you guys the power coming out of this thing and on the wires down in the oven part first, because if I go moving this around and unplugging things, I might jostle that relay loose. But either way, let's check it out real quick and see. So although So the diagram here, I'll show you the diagram real quick. It's kind of a lot to read, but I'll kind of walk you through it real quick. So out of the control board here, this electronic oven control, the bake wire comes out as a yellow 6. Goes all the way down to the bake element right here. So the red line goes straight to the hot on the terminal block in the back, and the yellow line is what gets turned on and off as the controller turns it on and off. So, and then if you look up here, line 1 goes all the way down and connects to the other. So that's line 1 that we just were on. So really what's going on is line 1 power is going to the bake circuit through the relay. But line 1 is tied off of down here where the other hot line comes in. So you got hot line going all the way up to line 1, and then that line goes out, and the other side of the element is just tied to the other side of the 240. So we were getting 240 down here at the element, although the power was turned off, or supposed to be turned off, up here at this electronic control. So I believe what's going on is this relay had stuck right here, this bake relay, if that's the relay it is. But nonetheless, like I said, in ohms, we should be reading across this, and it probably got unstuck when we pulled it off of there or whatever. So, but that's okay, because what I've got is actually a rebuild kit that comes with these relays that do fail. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull the circuit board out, and we're going to solder some new components onto here. This connector down here that needs to be unplugged, this black wire that needs to be unplugged, and we've got these 1/4-inch screws holding this whole display on. So I guess I could probably pop the board off inside of here, but there's no need to fight with it. We can just unplug everything, and now that's completely disconnected. We can get our screwdriver in here now and get to these screws. And we're going to try not to drop these this time, because if they get lost in the depths of the range, we might not be able to really find them easily. So make sure you get your fingers on there. I've also used in critical situations a magnet. Just stick a magnet beside the screwdriver head if you're trying not to drop it. So there's the display, at least the back side of it, and there's the front side of it. So let's take it over on the bench and take a look at it. So I've got the board here. There's a little bit better view of everything. I see some like kind of dirt stuff here, but I think it's just like heat that comes off of there. I don't think that's any issues right there. And up here with this resistor too. But I don't think any of that has anything to do with the problems we had. So it looks like this just kind of pries up out of here. If you use a smaller screwdriver and kind of just pull it out of there. Looks like we got some stuff up here. We got to do the same thing too. Taking our time, not getting in a hurry, trying not to break anything else. We already have enough problems as it is with this thing. Okay. Just looking down inside of here. There's the solder contacts of these relays we need to pull out. But why isn't... Oh, okay. I think I'm seeing now. These little tabs here need to be popped up. Right here. So you can get that out of the way and get this backboard out. There we go. Alright, so we're just going to do that. Again, taking our time. One clip at a time. So there's some part numbers here for you. Spitfire Controls Incorporated. There's some information if you were interested in mine. And I'll put the model number of my range down in the description. Trying to pry this thing out of here slowly. Again, we're not trying to break anything any more than it's already broken. Oh, now we need to get by the the little clips on that first set. Yeah, that's kind of tricky. Seems like they didn't want you to get in here and mess with this thing. But that's okay. We're going to get in here and mess with it anyways. Okay, we got it. There's the display, the back side of it. So we'll set that over to the side. There's the front side, all where the push buttons. These are the little push buttons that you click. And back here, this is the area of interest. These contacts right here, because they go to this relay. These relays. Probably end up putting both of those on. But we're gonna have to take this back to the. I don't have a soldering iron in the house here, so we'll take these back to the workbench and see if we can get these pulled out of here and get the new ones installed without breaking this connector. I guess this is supposed to be bent open like that. Yeah, it's going to have to be because I got to get to all this stuff. All right, so let's go do that. Got our circuit board here. Here's the relays we're going to be changing out. I'm going to change this one out too later, but I don't have it yet. But I know this is the one that was stuck on, so we're definitely going to change both of these out and give it a go. Just put it back together and go on with it. But you can see here I've got the replacements here, and I'll put a picture in of the close up of these that has really good lighting, and you can check down below in the description, and that's going to tell you where you can find these. There's a nice place you can pick those up. So what we're going to do, though, to get these out of here, we're going to need to fold this board back. And you can see it kind of hinges on these solid wires back here. So we're just going to get that out of the way. And then we've got these terminals here and these two right here. So that'd be these six and then these two, that one and that one. So what I'm going to use is this desoldering braid. And what I'm going to do is soak up all of the solder off of these pins, and then gently we're going to pull the relay that's on the other side of this off. These pins back here, these are for the terminals here. So there you go. All right, so let's get started with that. And I've got the iron not warmed up yet. I've got a pretty large tip on here for now, and I might use this to solder with too, because these are pretty big. But I like this nice wide tip. Again, I'll put some links down to this stuff, for this stuff down below. But how you use desoldering braid is you just heat it up, put it right on there, and it absorbs the solder right into it. And you can see that pin is now completely released from the through hole that it was attached to. So in fact, I can move it with my finger. Maybe a little bit on this side. But so what I'm going to do is just keep going around and push that down into it there. And wait till it to start bubble a little bit. And just like that. So that pin is now released. So we'll keep going through here. But yeah, I'm going to keep doing this. And when I get all these pulled out, all this solder sucked up into the desoldering braid, I'll be back with you. And we will go attempt to try to remove the relay from the board. Went ahead and got all that solder out. You can see it's all cleaned up there, and you can see it already started kind of releasing a little bit from the board. Now I'm going to put my fingers on here and not going to force it or anything, but I'm just gently pulling to see if I've got all of the pins loosened up. Oh, there it goes. It just fell out. Okay, that's great. So there's the old pins there, solder cleaned up off of them, and that's how you clean those out. So that's ready to go for a new we might clean that a little bit, but that's ready to go for um, the new relay to go back in there. So I'm going to go ahead and do that to this one here too. That would be these 6 right here, that one, that one, that one, and those 3 here, and then these 2 right here. And those are the corresponding holes for this relay. So I'm going to go ahead and take this one off too. Just got some alcohol here on a rag. I'm just going to use this to just kind of clean the board up a little bit. Kind of gets all that flux from the desoldering braid off of there. There you go. You can see all the gunk it picked up. Alcohol works really good. It dries really fast and doesn't contaminate anything. All right, there we go. Like brand new, ready to get these new uh, relays installed. So here's our 2 new relays. We're going to make sure they are new. Make sure they're not loaded with solder or anything like that crazy. So we'll just go back with the way we were and get that stuff out of the way. There we go. We got our relay here. So we're just going to put it into the board just like that. And now I have in the past taken a little itty bitty dot of hot glue or super glue, just I mean the smallest amount, to hold it onto the board like that to keep it in place. But I've got um, this little light right here, and it should be able to fit right underneath of there and hold that up. Yeah, that's perfect. So all that's doing is just putting a little back pressure on that relay and just holding it up out of the way. So we're going to keep our iron the same way it was, and I'm going to show you guys a trick with this solder. Just pull off a bunch, like that much. You can set your spool off to the side and just hold the solder in your fingers when you go back in here. All right, we got that in place. We're ready to put this solder on. I'm going to show you guys a quick little trick. And I do have my gloves on now. I should have had them on earlier when I was desoldering, but just didn't think about it. I'm sure you guys were yelling at the screen there. I do have an exhaust fan going, so that's good too. You want to make sure you're doing this in a well ventilated area. So I've got my soldering iron here, and I'm just going to clean the tip real quick, make sure it's nice and shiny. Here we go. So we're going to solder this on there. I'm going to put a little pressure back on here to make sure that relay is pushed into there in the right place. So what I'm going to do is just put the iron on there, put a little dab on it, watch it flow into that base, and then once it loops around there and looks like a little volcano, that's it, it's in. So I'm going to come back over here on this one now, and I'm going to do the same thing. Put a little dab on there and watch it flow down onto the pad, and just add a little extra in there, and then hold it and let it cool. I'm going to pick this up and show you, otherwise I just keep going. But now that it's held in place, let's see if I can show you. So that's one of them I did right there. That looks perfectly fine. Maybe a little low. And then the other one was this one right above my finger here. And that looks perfectly fine for what we're doing here. That's very, very good. So here we're going to just continue on soldering here and putting all this together. All right, just like that, the new relay is installed. All right, let's get the next one in. So this should be the other new one, and it is new. I've got the old ones stashed away right here. Yeah, and you can see the flux and the junk all over them. So I'm just double checking because I know me either way. So yeah, these are ready to go. And same thing, we're just gonna line it in those holes like that. if I can get it in the hole. There we go. And same thing, we're just going to use this light right here to hold a little backup for us. Get that in a better position. So we've got our new relay installed, and I've got this light just holding a little backup, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do the two corners again. So I just cleaned the iron off on my wet sponge. Same thing, we're just going to add a little bit, get it hot, and then flow it in there. And watch it kind of soak around, and then that's perfect. Alright, so that's in, and now we're going to do this one back here. It looks like it has fallen out, and it has. Alright, okay, so that's perfect. Alright, so it's kind of at an angle because of the way it was kind of falling out. So what I'm going to do is heat up this one corner and push up with my finger back here in the back, and that'll hold it right in position there. So now you can see these pins on the back side, those three, and this one in the corner are in the right position for soldering now. So that was good that happened, so you guys can see. It's not a big deal. You just heat that one little pin up, and then it's in. So now what we're going to do is go back here to this corner here. Same thing, going to add a little bit. Make it look like a little volcano right around that pin. This one right here. And it's ready to go. Alright, go through here. We're going to solder the rest of them. Clean our iron off real quick, and here we go. Oh, I was just looking at it and I missed one. You guys are probably yelling, "Hey, Mr. Cadence, you forgot one." That's why you always do a visual real quick. Same thing, you just want to check your work. I don't know if you saw, I just did that real quick. I think I explained it earlier, but when I flowed the solder right into it, I stopped adding solder and I let the iron sit on that pin and that pad real quick, and you see it just flows right in there, just perfect. You'll see it just, and that's what you want. So you want it in there just right. Okay, so that solder job is done. These relays are in place, and again, we're going to change this one out later when it finally comes in, but we need to use the oven today. So we got those in, we're going to go test it out. So let's go install this in the oven. Got everything ready to go here, back at the stove, and we're going to reassemble this cover on here, the housing. So what you'll need to do is get the green board, we'll call it, down inside of there to where it locks into these little fingers here, the ones we had to pry apart to get it out of there. So just pushing that in there gently. We're not going crazy with it or anything. We'll start at one end, work our way to the other end. Just like that. So see how this whole side is clipped in? Now we need to get this side clipped in. So what we can do is take our screwdriver and kind of pull down on it there. Or maybe we'll try to use our fingers. Let's see here. Well, it looks like we're going to need to use our screwdriver to push on it. There we go. We get our board, we just have to push it back down inside of this housing here underneath these fingers on both sides. See how the board is below the fingers? So next up, we'll have to get this guy here, and this pushes down the white board, or kind of brownish board, clips down into these little clips right here. Those guys right there. So you got to go all the way around here. There's 6 of them. Or 8, I'm sorry, 8 of them. So we got the whole top in. Now we're going to clip the bottom in. into place. All right, that's in now too. So just make sure we got everything lined up right. We got all the buttons sound like they interface okay. So that should be good to go. All right, so let's put this back in the back. It's the same as disassembly. So let's go do that. All right, for reassembly, we're just going to go right back how we took it out. And that would be in this orientation here with the clock display up. That goes into the right into the hole there. And we've got our 4 screws. These 4 screws go back into the flanges here. They go into the metal. So get that started by hand so we don't strip any of them. And then we've got one over here, or 2 over here rather. Like that. And load that one up there. Get that one started. Load this one up and get this one going here. Excellent. So go ahead and plug this into the bottom here, and this is just pin for pin. All these pins line up with these pins down here. And then our black goes on the bottom for L1. Our blue goes into broil. And then the yellow one goes on to the bake. Alright, so we got all that back together. That's on, that's on, that's on. So it looks like we'll need to put the cover back on now. Now that we got everything installed here, we're going to go ahead and put the cover back on. And this goes, all this stuff goes behind there. And we got to line up this little hole with this one up here at the very top. 1/4 inch or square drive, I believe, but 1/4 inch is just easier to install. And then just go around and we'll go ahead and install all the screws where they need to go, and we'll even throw some of them on the floor. I'm going to go ahead and plug this thing back in. Should be good to go. Got that back panel put on. There we go. Let's check the display out and check it for operation. Alright, well that's good. The display is flashing, so we should be okay with that. We can set the clock whatever time it is. Alright, well let's put this thing back in position and we'll open up the oven and take a look and make sure everything works. So before, when we had everything hooked up, the element down here was staying on, but you guys saw it still had power on it, but I had it unhooked. But now everything's hooked up and there's no power going to it. So now what we're going to do is going to turn the oven on. So we'll set bake and we'll set a temperature, and then that you hear it click and you see this light turn on. That should turn the element on. So let's see if we have heat coming out now. Yes, and we do. Alright, so we're going to let this thing go through a cycle or two. We'll let it get up to temperature, and then we'll come back and check on it here in just a couple minutes. Oh yeah, but it's definitely heating up. See, we've got a nice glow there on the element, so that's good. We'll be back here and check it out in just a few minutes to make sure it turns off. Went ahead and set the temperature here to 170, and I just wanted to see if it would actually turn it off. So let's see what happens here. Yeah, definitely looks like the element turned off. You can see it's glowing a little bit, but it's not glowing nearly as much as it was. So we'll see if it stabilizes. We've got the temperature on the oven is off and the preheat light is still on. It means it hasn't actually gotten to the preheat and turned everything off. But the element is definitely off now, so it is controlling it now. So I'm good with that. We'll let it go through a couple cycles here and test it out. Alright, so I ran it through a couple tests here, turned it on and turned it off. I heard the relay itself back behind here turning itself on, turning itself off, and right now the element is off, and I've got everything off. So I think, yeah, I think we got it figured out. So we're going to change that last relay out. Definitely think that was a problem. Definitely that other one was. But either way, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.